And it looks like we're going to begin in a second, okay? But so the way we'll proceed is just, it's fine for you to leave your cameras on unless your bandwidth creates any problems. And all you do is mute your mics that way. And then when I call on you, you unmute your mic. And we could see from there, okay? And we're going to begin in a few minutes. Well, actually, we're going to begin now. Okay, so 1 second. I just have to get a few things together. And okay. This is from Senegal. This is from Senegal, by the way. Okay, so Adom, you're here. Okay, so first, I'll begin by saying in the ancient language of Meduneta Hotep. I will say also Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Vatican. I'll also add Sawubona, which is Zulu, which for I see you. And I'll add to that Mulwene, Oza. We can greet each other. And as we know, I'll also add, because I'm in New England, and Wanikisuk. Wanikisuk is Wampanoag. That was the greeting that was made by the Wampanoag people, as you know, when they greeted the pilgrims who did not reciprocate with kindness. But of course, we don't need to follow the negative example. We can serve a better example by what it means to greet as we welcome so many on this joyous occasion. So we are here to celebrate our laureates. This is the Caribbean Philosophical Association Awards ceremony. The Caribbean Philosophical Awards ceremony begins always with an acknowledgement of our ancestors. And that is because, first of all, it's the right thing to do. It's just right. But the other thing is the significance of the fact that although we didn't plan it originally that way, the very first meeting of this organization began symbolically at the Accra Hotel in Barbados. And of course, Accra points to Ghana. And we stood on those shores, looked to the east, and we acknowledged the ancestors at the Caribbean Sea all the way into the ocean. And so I have something from Senegal here. This is Hebes, and I'll pour it. And I'll just say to our ancestors, because as we know, we are here by virtue of their deeds, good and bad. But at the same time, a commitment to ancestors means also a commitment to descendants for those to come. And if we think of ourselves as a generative organization, then in acknowledging them, we participate in what it means to acknowledge those to come, those whom we will never know, but in many ways, those to whom we offer the best of what we are. So I hold up this, and boy, this is aged. So I will first take a sip of it, because it's to remind us that is to share, and I pour it in the libation cup here, okay? And with that said, we'll begin with a statement from our president, Hanétha Vété-Congolo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Louis. It's not going to be a statement per se, but a word of introduction, especially to welcome all of you, because I'm personally very, very happy to see so many friends and new faces as well. I don't know everyone gathered together for this important gathering that we are having here. And Louis, I can't believe that you're greeting us in so many different languages, but your own, or Creole, for example. So I want to say good morning to everyone in Creole. That's perhaps one of the only language that was born recently in America, and the one that's African, French African, based on African languages and with a French lexicon. So, bel bonjour tout le monde. Mon content ouais tout le monde là. And so we can begin in English. And Louis, after that, you could greet us in patois, right? We want Jamaica to be also in the room, as we are welcoming our friends and brothers and sisters from around the world. So it's my pleasure really to welcome you and celebrate our CPA awardees. And so recently someone, and actually it was Henry Paget, reminded us in a discussion at the CPA Summer School that one of the objectives of the CPA is to bring to the fore important intellectuals and philosophers of the Global South that have undergone marginalization and have been excluded from their rightful place among the larger group of intellectuals and philosophers in the world. And actually, Paget was introducing to the audience a very important philosopher from Martinique, whose name is René Ménil. And so the CPA Summer School, directed by Jane Gordon, is another tool the CPA offers to accomplish this endeavor of bringing more equity and truth to the world of ideas. And so the CPA Award Committee aims at the same objective. It awards prizes not so much to create an intellectual elite, but to ensure that the world of ideas is as large and inclusive as it can be, and the voice of those who propose edifying ideas, especially from the South, is acknowledged and part of discussions that concern our collective welfare. CPA makes sure that your work, your propositions, your contributions to us, to the world, do not go unnoticed. We see you, we want you, we need your work. You are such voices, and it's with deep respect that I thank you for your contribution to the intellectual and philosophical work. Congratulations to all of you, and I think I can stop here so that Louis continues the libation and the awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanétha, President Hanétha Vété-Congolo. So yes, I could add buenos dias, bon dia, bonjour. And as them say in Jamaica, you know, I will go on. So, you know, I know if I talk my language, you know, man. Yeah, I could tell many funny stories about this. And of course, for Firoze, Ujambo, man, Ujambo, right? One of the things is, just related to what Hanétha said, there was one time when I was in a meeting in South Africa where there were many people from different parts of Africa, but there was a crucial point in the conversation where the other folks did not want the whites to know what we were saying. And some of the people asked me, do I know how to speak? And they asked a particular language. And I said, I don't know. Say something. And it turns out because I'm born from the 1960s Jamaican patois, which is more Africanized. The more recent patois is more US oriented. There's so many, a conglomeration of Southern African words in the old Jamaican patois that I was able to understand them. And so we started talking. And it was a really funny situation because it made a lot of the whites paranoid. But at the same time, it really struck me that as much as certain people like Molefe Asante have been ridiculed, remember he does communication linguistics. That aspect of what he was saying was right, that we do if we cling to these aspects of ourselves that are often disparaged, but understand them, they could give us the gift of being able to communicate with each other. So first, I would like to just tell you the way we'll proceed, and then I'll make my remarks about the award. When I announce the names, you can give, if it's fine if you'd like to unmute and clap or do virtual claps. After I name the awardees will make remarks, and then we'll conclude the ceremony, okay? Now, one of the things I'd like to, the first thing I'd like you to know is that if all you have to do to find out who voted for the people who are being honored today is to look at the Caribbean Philosophical Association website, and you will see the list of previous winners, and they are the ones who vote, which means that all of the people we are bringing into our organization today as award winners, they will vote on future winners. So every individual who is celebrated today is an automatic member of the awards committee for the Caribbean Philosophical Association. If you'd like to see the profiles, I just put on the side in chat the links to an article of profiles of the winners who are being celebrated today for 2020 and 2021. Now, that said, I would like to get to talk about what our award means. Because you see, many award ceremonies are basically to say who's the best at this, who's the best at that, etc. But our awards mean something much different. And to understand our awards, you need to reflect on what we mean when we say shifting the geography of reason. For us, it means being able to reorient ourselves to deal with those who have been rendered either invisible or rejected in history. It also means a profound commitment to truth, because colonialism and racism and all the forms of dehumanization that we struggle against depend upon lies. They depend upon trying to get every one of you to believe things that are false. So in the end, although there are people who may disparage us when we say the words liberation, struggle, and freedom, what they miss is that what bolsters that commitment is an ethical fidelity to truth. Additionally, this truth can take profound forms. I always, and I have to begin the award ceremonies with reminding people of someone who inspired many of us, and inspired me in particular, around taking on this very privileged, honored task of chairing this committee. And it's a woman by the name of Harriet Bailey. Harriet Bailey was an enslaved woman in the early 19th century who, as happens with many enslaved women, when they're often, the masters often use them for supposed breeding. And when the child is born, the child is ripped away from the mother to be raised elsewhere. And this woman was put back in the fields. She was a field enslaved person. 7 years later, she finds out that that child was on a plantation 12 miles away from where she was working in the fields. And she found a way every night for 6 months to walk the 12 miles after she's worked all day from dawn till dusk in the fields to spend time with that child. She took her little bit of food, even though she was starving, to feed that starving child. She took her love. She took her strength. She took her frail body to keep that child warm. and then she died. Now, that child was told throughout his childhood that he was not worth anything except as a commodity, as a property of the master. That's all he was valued as. However, that woman brought something to that child, because in doing that, she introduced a different value, and it's the value of love. He could look around and say, although the master could say what is on the market, what the love this woman brought went beyond that. It was the understanding that in being loved, there's a different understanding of value to bring in the world. And as we know in the story, this man's name was Frederick Bailey, but he eventually developed the strength to fight against a slave master, Covey. He eventually became a fugitive, and he eventually was manumitted, and he was known as Frederick Douglass. But remember, I said, this is not about Frederick Douglass. This is about Harriet Bailey. Because you see, if Frederick Douglass simply took as the message from Harriet Bailey, that was that in her love, he was better than others, better than other enslaved people, all he would be is a cocky slave. But because Frederick Douglass valued the value of her love in a world that said to be loved by an enslaved woman, to be loved by her was not valuable, that she had nothing to offer. That moment in which he could value being loved by the damned of the earth, by a woman who was looked at as a commodity, he became a revolutionary. He became someone connected to all those who were being pushed under the heels of Euro-modern dehumanization and any other kind of degradation of life. And this is why, as we know, Frederick Douglass fought not only against enslavement, he fought against colonization, he fought against the degradation of women. The list goes on and on. And the reason I bring up this story is because when we look for our award winners, we're not simply looking for people of achievement. We're looking for people who value what it is to be valued by the damned of the earth. The people who understand, who can understand why Harriet Bailey, Harriet Jacobs, Tula, all the way through to those many freedom fighters, all the way through to those many nameless people, why they are valuable. And your work tirelessly brings to the forefront the importance of people whom, although some are not named any longer, they're anonymous, why ultimately every action of theirs mattered. So it was with that understanding what our awards is about. We are acknowledging, as we say in other parts of the world, what it means to say, I see you. We see you, and in seeing you, we see the love you have brought through your excellence, through your talent, through your commitments, and through your courage for what it means to set a standard and a transformation of what Fanon articulated as every generation having its mission to fulfill or to betray. And we're thanking you for fulfilling instead of betraying such a mission. So it is with that said, I'm going to now name each laureate And as I name the laureate, I'm going to say what is stated on her or his, and if some identify as their award, okay? So we begin with the Frantz Fanon Lifetime Achievement Award. And that one, the awards for the Frantz Fanon Lifetime Achievement Award, the award winners are Hussein Bulhan. And as I put in the link to the side, you could see the biography about them, statements about what they have won the awards for. Hussein Bulhan is, among many things, the founder of the Frantz Fanon University. And what we place on the plaque for the winners of the Fanon Award is for your groundbreaking and revolutionary work and your profound transformative impact on the lives of those who are among, in Fanon's words, le dingue de la terre. This goes also to Silvia Federici, the political theorist, fearless freedom fighter, and the list will go on. She would speak for herself later. Posthumously, she was awarded when she was alive, but we lost our dear María Lugones, but I'm acknowledging her right now. And we also did a lighting ceremony for her last Monday. And we have Rita Segato as the Frantz Fanon Lifetime Achievement Award winner. Rita, as many of you know, and you will get to hear from her as well. But one of the things I would like to say about each, and I'll just quickly just read out loud what's on the plaque, okay? In addition to the work they have done, is that all of these winners that we'll be talking about today are pretty much the spirit of what I just said in the opening remarks. The next set of Lifetime Achievement Award winners are the Nicolás, Cristóbal, Guillén, Batista Lifetime Achievement Award winners. And as many of you know, Frantz Fanon, many of you know as well, but Nicolás Guillén was a poet, philosopher, a journalist. The list goes on and on. He represents for Cuba the way people would think of Langston Hughes here and more. And these are people we see as exemplifying that spirit. The Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Frankétienne in Haiti, or Haiti, as the indigenous peoples there would mention it. And again, the link I placed will give the biographical information. It goes to Rozena Maart of South Africa. And one of the things I'd like to say, just a little backup, Hussein Bulhan is in Somaliland, Silvia Federici from Italy, María Lugones from Argentina. It's interesting, we have two Argentina hits twice, because we also have Rita Segato, okay? But this already tells you something about our organization, okay? Because we really mean it when we say shifting the geography of reason. All our laureates, we look to our entire community on our little blue planet. Haki Madhubuti, here in Chicago, the founder of Third World Press and so much more. Firoze Manji from Kenya and Daraja Press, much more. But again, everybody, there are many pages and reports available out there for you to look at our award winners. But the reason I'm not summarizing much about them right now is because I'd like to get as quickly as possible to them speaking, okay? For the outstanding achievements of the Nicolás Guillén Award, there's Dionne Brand in Canada. And for the Stuart Hall, and for some of you know Dionne Brand for her novels and her poetry. For the Stuart Hall Outstanding Mentorship Award, we have Raymond Rocco, who he's right now in California, and Ray links so many communities across the global South. And again, Ray will get to speak. We have Florentina de Silva Sousa. Bom dia, Florentine. Flora, as we call Flora, from Brazil. I'm mentioning the countries at the moment, so we could give a shout out to the various communities. And then we get to our book award winners. For the Frantz Fanon Outstanding Book Award, we have Adom Getachew for Worldmaking After Empire by Princeton University Press. We have Julius Scott, The Common Wind by Verso. We have now for the Nicolás Guillén Outstanding Award, we have Lamonte Aidu, Slavery on Scene, Duke University Press. And we have Chandramahan S. for Love After Babel, and Other Poems, Daraja Press. So before we go to the remarks, everybody, and it's fine if we make some noise in Zoom, unmute for a second and cheer our award winners.
Yo.
Bravo. Bravo. Bravi. Dua Neter, which is very ancient, which is just in another way of just saying you're blessed. Okay. So we're going to follow that order, the order at which I announced each winner, for each of them to get to make a remark. So we'll, you didn't get to see if Hussein Bulhan was able to make it. Hussein, are you here? I'm not sure, because there are internet and other issues that may be at play. Okay. Well, briefly, briefly what I could say about Hussein is he wrote Frantz Fanon Psychology, on the Psychology of Oppression. He is a psychologist, he does all kinds of work connected to communications, work around the African continent, but he's also the founder of Frantz Fanon University in Somaliland. And as we know, there are certain moments where there could be power outages, et cetera. He said he would try his best, but one of the reasons I'm trying to move through quickly, because some of you are located in places where the power might go out, and I don't want us to miss you. I don't want us to miss you. So Silvia Federici, the screen is yours.
Good. Good morning or good afternoon to you all, and thank you so much to you, Louis Gordon and Annette and the Caribbean Philosophical Association for this award, which is an amazing honor and really humbling award. And I wish I could share with all the people who have inspired my work and made it possible. And I want to mention some, and for instance, Hussein Alidu, Alamin Masroui, with whom we did the Committee for Academic Freedom in Africa, Evergreen, we did a lot of work against the death penalty and imprisonment. And of course, all the feminists, we do my work all these years, you know, for the politics that puts life at the center. And the many infinite, as you said, Louis, nameless people who have inspired my work and kept me going. And, you know, I'm especially honored to be together, to be associated here with María Lugones and with Rita Segato, have given an amazing contribution, you know, to women's struggle, to social justice struggle. And I've had the fortune to be with them, unfortunately, for too short a time, and we are still mourning the loss of Maria. Also, I'm very honored that this prize is in the name of Frantz Fanon, who has been a major political influence on my thinking. And, you know, quoting his words, it's clear more and more that his political lesson, you know, it's the oxygen that we still need every day, you know, to shape a new humanity. Thank you to you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Silvia.
Yeah.
And Sylvia also did mention that she was very active in the work of the Fanon Center in Italy. The time will go on. I encourage all of you who are viewing to look up the histories and the background of many of our award winners. As I said, they're very humble people, but there's so much on each of them. If I had the opportunity, I could write a book. María Lugones, posthumously awarded. I'll briefly say for Maria, we did a ceremony for her last Monday, and Maria is one of the people who've inspired us in the organization. Many of us, she's one of the best ways to honor someone, even though she has the formal honor here. We honor her every day through how many of us use her writings, use her example, and the courage she had of just simply living her life truthfully. She faced a lot of difficulties, the list just goes on and on in ways in which she has been treated unfairly for her work, but she never once, ever was a bitter person. What I love about her, and I knew her very well, is that she was most elated when she could witness the growth of another human being. In a way, she captures the spirit of what this meeting is about. And that's one of the reasons we have had additional ceremonies for her. And her award will be posted, the plaque will be at the institute that's being created in her memory in Binghamton. The next is Rita Segato. Rita Segato, welcome, and please, can we hear from you, your remarks?
Yes. Hello, I was really, Luis, very moved by the story you told us, and immediately afterwards, my system collapsed, so my connection collapsed. What I did today is to write one paragraph, a long paragraph, because I have many years without living in a place where English is the current language. So I prefer to write a paragraph saying what it means this for me. I understand very well the meaning of this prize, and I am very honored to receive it. So I read it for you, and I said this: we belong to Fanon's lineage. Fanon is in our genealogy, in our ancestry, as is also his mentor, MSSR. All of us on this side of the ocean who have understood, as Aníbal Quijano has done, that thinking about race is the key that opens the gates of consciousness and frees us from the ontological orphanhood afflicting us. All of us who have realized that when we arrived in Paris, we are all Fanon. And all of us who have become aware of a situation derived from Fanon's groundbreaking thesis, Black Skin, White Masks, the situation of the white skin, like me, from Black landscapes. Because in fact, we are particles detached from our own landscapes. We are all Pied Noir people. Again, when we arrive in Paris, we are all Fanon. Like the great thinker, although we may look white in our countries, we belong to a colonial landscape, a situation marked by destitution, which is also imprints our bodies. Permanent coloniality and conquest inscribed on our skin, although we may look white, which looks white on this side of the Atlantic, but is not. I'm grateful and intimidated by this prize, the news of which came as a great surprise to me. I never imagined I could be worthy of it, but I will work to be able to consider myself deserving of a place in this precious lineage. So this is what I felt and what I write. Feeling myself a little bit out of place because the appearance of whiteness of my skin, but we are never white on these landscapes. So thank you very much. I'm very honored again. And I am very, very, very happy to be among you.
Muchas gracias, Rita. Rita and Silvia, would you like to say something also in your birth language, since this is recorded? That way the communities you could say hello to as well. So, Rita, would you like to say something in español?
Sí, claro, una gran felicidad, una gran honra, ¿no? Inclusive está mi hija aquí escuchando y eso, cuando hablaste, Lewis, sobre la madre esclava, me conmovió profundamente.
Muchas gracias. Silvia, would you like to say anything in Italian?
Il microfono, microphone.
Sì, che è un grande onore per me ricevere questo riconoscimento. Come Rita ha detto, anch'io non mi aspettavo assolutamente questo tipo di premio. È chiaro che in questo momento, no, il nome di Frantz Fanon, la lotta che Frantz Fanon ha rappresentato, a cui ha dato voce, sono per noi estremamente necessarie, sono quelle che ci ispirano di nuovo continuamente, no, a lottare, perché come abbiamo visto in questi periodi, soprattutto negli Stati Uniti, in Palestina, no, la lotta anticoloniale è più necessaria che mai. E grazie di nuovo per questo riconoscimento.
Grazie. For the audience, the Caribbean Philosophical Association is a multilingual organization. We see part of shifting the geography of reason is to encourage people, even when it's difficult, to try to communicate also across the languages and also to express themselves in their native tongue. We come now to the Guillén winners. Frankétienne, est-ce que vous êtes ici? I'm not sure, because I heard from Frankétienne that there might be power outage in Haiti. Frankétienne is in Haiti right now. Okay, so it may be the power didn't come on. For those of you who would like to know about Frankétienne, you can see the link with our discussions about him. Frankétienne is not only a poet, a writer, a visual artist. He's a theorist. The list is manifold, okay? But he did, upon receiving the award, express his gratitude. And I would like for those, especially in Haiti, to know that he sent a hearty merci beaucoup. But Hanétha, perhaps you would like to say something briefly, since you were also in correspondence with Frankétienne? Perhaps in Creole too.
Of course, Louis, and then perhaps I could read the word he sent, the word of thanks in French, and possibly kind of summarize in English what he says. And I can, of course, say a few words in Creole as well. So in French, first, what he did send as a thank you note is « Par-delà la distance et le temps, je vous envoie un immense merci d'avoir pensé à honorer mon travail qui, quelque part, m'a permis de flairer les imperceptibles battements du divin. Merci pour le regard, merci pour le geste, merci pour la parole et la musique du silence. Well, I think it's... I'm sure it's clear to all here that he's thanking the award committee and CPA for having considered his work and propositions, which he calls that a gesture. Thank you for the gesture. So what can I say in Creole? M'en content tout bonnement, Frankétienne, trappé prix tala. C'est un prix qui pour talent, qui est important, qui a montré sa Frankétienne qu'a fait la Caraïbe, à sous mode pensée la Caraïbe et à sous travail en disant l'art la Caraïbe.
Okay. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Hanétha. And now we go to Rozena Maart in South Africa. Rozena, the screen is yours. And Rozena, I wasn't sure if she was here earlier for power outage.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I would like to just thank everybody at the CPA for all the years of having a home. As a child of forced removal, I think we, certainly in my case, and I know with lots of friends, we seek out homes sometimes and we also build homes. So I was delighted to receive such an honor, especially from people whose work, thoughts and ideas and some friendships that I value so much. I also wanted to just add that I found it very interesting. I think Juan, my husband, is also online in another room, and he told his father he was very happy, and it was very interesting that my father-in-law was one of very few people who actually knew who Nicolás Guillén was. So I had to explain to some folks in South Africa and in Colombia, I think with the younger generation, but my father-in-law Ignacio immediately knew. What made it even more interesting was when I shared it with one of my relatives, and she's quite a lot older. A lot of the women in our family live quite long. And some of my cousins say they live long out of spite for no other reason. But anyway, she was very good in pointing out that Nicolás Guillén's birthday was a day before my father's, which is July. My father's birthday was July 11th and Nicolás is July 10th. And my father died on July 17th, 1988, and Nicolás died on July 16th. So I thought it was very interesting that not only, over the years and having reached out to so many parts of the world whose work and writings became so important to me from the Caribbean, from many parts of the world, but particularly the Caribbean, that I would be associated with a person that has meant so much, not only to people from Cuba and the Caribbean, but also clearly the CPA and those who find his work inspirational, and the way that he pursued his passion, not only for the law and writing and as an activist and a communist, I think, but to be able to reach as far as South Africa, certainly among my students and friends, to be able to be enriched by that kind of work. So yes, I feel very honored, and it's a very special thing to be shared among people, my colleagues and friends. So thank you once again to everybody. Mi español no es bueno, yo no hablo español todos los días, and I know that we have so much load shedding that a lot of my students can't come on. And I'm from the Cape, so I also speak Kaaps, which is the old in language of the enslaved, but there's nobody who speaks Kaaps, and I speak Afrikaans and Old Dutch. But ja, baie dankie. Soos ons sê in die Kaap, baie dankie. Ek is baie bly, ek voel baie gelukkig. I feel very lucky, I feel very blessed. Thank you.
Please,
merci.
Merci, but please also in Kaaps, because it's for the ancestors.
Kaap. As van die Kaap, wat kan ek sê, ek is van die Kaap, ek voel baie lekker, is baie goed. Thank you.
Danke. Haki, now we go to Haki. Sorry, I didn't realize my mic was off. Now we go to Haki Madhubuti. Haki, the screen is yours.
Well, thank you very much. As the other laureates, I'm, very honored, and to be in the name of Nicolás Guillén, whom inspired all of us, but most certainly me, he as a poet and as a poet of liberation. I was able to visit Cuba about 2 years ago, and able to walk into the footsteps that he walked also. I'm here primarily because of Gwendolyn Brooks, who was my cultural mother, and a person who put her hands on my shoulder and told me to slow down about 40 years ago. And Dudley Randall, who was my first publisher out of Broadside Press, who's a major, major poet of our generation. And Howard W. Fuller, who's the managing editor of Negro Digest Black World Magazine, and a primary thinker of our movement, most certainly coming out of the Black Arts Movement. And it's important for me to also mention my wife of over 50 years, Dr. Carol D. Lee, who was the co-founder of we have 3 schools here in Chicago. And these people, as well as many others, allowed me to grow and develop. And also might add, most certainly toward the end of, I discovered many years ago, Charles W. Mills, who was one of the co-founders of the Caribbean Philosophical Society. And I've used his book in my classes when I taught. I taught for 42 years. I'm retired now. But this means a great deal to me because as many of you, I've had the opportunity to travel much of the world, and not only Africa and the Caribbean, but also other continents too. And this acknowledgement goes a long way, especially at my age. I know no one mentioned their age, but I'm 79, knocking the hell out of 80, all right? And Third World Press will be 54 years old in September. And we are in a new development with the press, new leadership and everything. And you'll see that if you go to Third World Press Foundation.org. I'm going to end my brief comments with a poem. I'm a poet, and all too often, poets in other spheres are forgotten. They don't think that we think, and we do. That's all we do is think and write and try to build things. And so I really respect you all. And of course, I'm a part of it now, the Caribbean Philosophical Association. You're building something. This is so important to me. We built here in Chicago. We're one of the largest independent Black publishing companies in the world. We own a half a block here in Chicago. We got 3 schools. We have 3 schools, preschool and 2 K-8 schools, and servicing over 600 families a day in an African-centered education. And for over 42 years, I taught in the academy. But for us, for me, our children, it doesn't matter what race, what color, what culture the children come from, because they're all our children. And children are influenced, obviously, as you know, by their parents. But I just want to say again, thank you. And to make sure that you understand that I'm here as a part of the Caribbean Philosophical Association now to be a worker, all right? And if you want a place to meet in the States, you can come to Chicago. All right? We can work that out. So I'm gonna end with this poem. And this is the poem that I wrote for Gwendolyn Brooks on her centennial. And of course, this is called Gwendolyn Brooks, America in the Wintertime. And again, thank you very much. In this moment of orangutans, wolves, and scavengers, of high heat, redesigning the North and South poles, and the wanderings of new tribes and limousines, with the confirmation of liars, thieves, and get-over artists, in the wilderness of Pennsylvania Avenue, Standing Rock, misspelled executive orders on yellow paper and crooked signatures. Where are the kind languages makers among us? In a time of extreme climate damage, deciphering fake news, alternative truths, and meism, you saw the 21st century and left us. Not on your own accords or permission, you have fought most of the 20th century, creating an army of poets and learned and loved language and stories, are complicated rivers, seas, and oceans. Where is the kind green nourishment of kale and wheatgrass? You thought, wrote, and lived poetry, knew that terror is also language-based on denial, fascism, and rich cowards. You are honey and yes to us. Never ran from Black, as in bones, Africa, blood, and questioning yesterdays and tomorrows. We never saw you dance, but you had rhythm. You were a warrior before the war, creating earth languages, uncommon signs and melodies, and did not sing the songs of career slaves. Keenly aware of Tubman, Douglas, Wells Barnett, Du Bois, and the oversized consciousness and commitment of never quit people, religiously taking note of the bloodless enemies of kindness. We hear your last words. America, if you see me as your enemy, you have no friends. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, again, thank you. And I would say that I would never call the people who enslaved us master. They are enslavers. They're not our masters. Never use that term. Again, thank you very much. Sante-san. Take care.
Sante-san. My tangles. Thank you for that poem, Haki.
Thank you.
We now go to Firoze Manji. It's interesting how things can work in unusual ways because there are so many things, given the fact that it would have been separate years, just the way the order ended up, you are next to each other. And there are ways in which the two of you beautifully converge. So Firoze, please join us on the screen.
Thank you, Louis, and thank you, everyone. Shifting the geography of reason. What an extraordinary, what a wonderful expression. And that's indeed been the driving force of my work over many decades. I was never able to express it in such a succinct phrase. But it was that which gave rise to the foundation of my own work, including with Pambazuka and Daraja Press. I mean, I don't think there's a continent about which so much has been written by outsiders as the African continent. In so-called independent Africa, the voices of those who were engaged in emancipatory struggles, the voices of those struggling against the persistence of colonialism in its neo-colonial form, the voices, the courage and audacity of militants who sought to imagine, invent, and even create tomorrow's world today were just largely ignored. A celebration was needed, I felt. A celebration of Africa's cultures, languages, histories, capacities to produce, organize, philosophize, tell stories, invent, love, make music, sing songs, make poetry, create art, all those things that make people human and all things that neo-colonial regimes have continued to destroy in their efforts to continue the dehumanization of their own people, confining them to the sacrifice zones and using violence against them in order to protect the integrity of their own sacred zones. When I started Pambazuka in news in the year 2000, I was convinced that a conversation was needed, a dialectical interaction amongst militants and engaged intellectuals that would produce a way of shifting the geography of reason, that would present the world from the perspective of the damnés de la terre on the continent. It was about giving voice to those many perspectives in a non-sectarian way that encouraged debate, but not mudslinging. It was about legitimizing the voices of all those committed to the emancipatory project. By the time I left Pambazuka News in 2012, a community of more than 3,000 authors had contributed to this weekly magazine. And in the first 3 years of its book publishing enterprise, some 50 books from African activists and intellectuals had been published. And the magazine was reaching, over the space of a year, 1 million unique readers across the continent. Over the past few years, A Bridge to the Future, the Raja Press, has taken off, with publication dedicated to nurturing reflection, sheltering hope, and inspiring audacity. Already with some 60 books published and with more than 100 podcasts around the theme of organizing in the time of COVID-19, there's a real sense of community, the community of solidarity emerging. And I'm really proud that one of our books, Chandra Mohan's Love After Babel, is being recognized today. I think that's a fantastic achievement for Chandra Mohan. To receive this recognition and award from the Caribbean Philosophical Association is a huge, it's an immense honor for which I thank you. But it's also a tribute to the thousands of activists who made Pambazuka and Daraja Press what they are. And it's moving to receive an award named after the Cuban poet and journalist, Nicolás Guillén. But it is especially heartening to receive this award from this association, precisely because it was in the Caribbean that the events of 1791 to 1804 were to have such an impact in shifting the geography of reason internationally. It's an honor and source of joy to receive such an award. Thank you. Asanteni, shukran, ninam shukuru sana. Asante.
Hey. Thank you. And yeah, I'm so sorry for those who cannot do the. My big tongue can do it forever. But we come now to the Stuart Hall Outstanding Mentorship Award. And this award, just to let you know, the laureates vote to affirm it, but these are awards that come animated from students, from the people who have been mentored by the recipient. So the first Stuart Hall Outstanding Mentorship Award winner is Raymond Rocco. Ray, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Louis. And can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
So good morning, good afternoon, greeting from Los Angeles. First, I want to thank the awards committee and for nominating and granting me this award. I also want to thank Louis and Jane for their friendship and their support. And for their leadership in helping establish what's a very unique space for progressive critical scholarship on race and beyond. So this award coming from this association with that kind of commitment, as Lewis says, to tell the truth as best we can, makes this very, very important and meaningful for me. So I'm very honored and thankful for this. I want to say a little bit, as briefly as I can, about what I think is the basis of this award. And as I assumed, it came from students that I've worked with. But for the collective here, just a brief word about what I think was the basis of the award. And that was my participation in it was essentially a collective project at UCLA that spanned several years. In 2004, my good friend and colleague, Mark Sawyer, who passed away a few years ago, launched an initiative to create a race and politics subfield in the Department of Political Science that didn't simply replicate the narrow focus on race in American voting behavior and politics. And that was a result of Mark's interest and really groundbreaking work on race in Brazil and in Cuba in particular. My work with Afro-Colombianos in Buenaventura, Colombia, with in Costa Rica on the Pacific Coast, with community-based groups there, and with Afro-Boricua community organizations over the years. So Mark and I came together around those much more expanded notions. And what we offered was a proposal to study racial capitalism in the Americas and all of its manifestations at different parts of the society. There were a few colleagues who supported us, but also a very significant number of colleagues who fiercely, and I would say passionately, resisted the proposal. And what I want to argue is that it wasn't just Mark and I, our leadership, but it was the key role of the graduate students, initially about a dozen, who in the trenches were the ones that made the difference and brought this program into existence. Without those students, there would have been no REP of the type that Mark and I promoted. And so this was really a collaborative effort with a few colleagues, but the graduate students who were absolutely fundamental in making this a reality and creating a very different space. It was an ugly time, I have to say. Unfortunately, the degree of racial animus and ugliness that often surfaces lurks below the surface of this facade of collegiality, and obviously came into play. Suffice to say, without going into greater detail, that in two successive reviews of the department, outside reviews, 6-year reviews, the #1 issue that was cited by the primarily white political scientists as the problem in the department was racial conflict. So it was a very difficult time. And it was the students, I mean, it's one thing for tenured faculty to fight these battles in committees and in department meetings, quite another for vulnerable graduate students to take these battles on. And it was really them that made this a reality. And I'm so proud of many of them that are now professors and pursuing the battle and in other ways. So I want to accept, and I'm happy to accept the award on behalf of all of those folks who were part of this collective effort to create this. And without them, without what they helped create, there would have been no mentorship that I think is being recognized here. So I think of this as an award that recognizes the collective effort of all of us to create that unique space at UCLA. I think the connection with the Caribbean Philosophical Association came as a result of our having the good fortune of Jane accepting an invitation to come to speak at UCLA, where she engaged many of those students and in fact, I think continues to have connections with some of them in her own department, but throughout. And I think it was then in that set of conversations that we had collectively that Jane recognized that the goals of our project there at UCLA and those of the CPA were closely aligned. And that was that both were sought to expand the scholarly spaces and venues that were devoted to an emancipatory vision that we all shared. And I think that's what connects us still to the association. And I'm very proud to have been embraced by Louis and Jane and the association, and to have this collective recognition of what we tried to achieve, and that lasted for about a decade. So thank you again so much for recognizing this, and felicidades a todos. Yeah.
Can you unmute, Louis?
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was still muted. Okay, felicitaciones, felicidades, muchas gracias, Ray. We now move to Florentina da Silva Sousa. Flora, as we affectionately know her, has been to many of our meetings, and she's having trouble getting online. But as I mentioned before, this award was put together by students, and one of her students is in attendance. And that student is Rozena da Silva. So Rose, would you mind speaking in behalf of your fellow students for Flora? And if Flora comes on later, then she will speak for herself. And Rose, you could say it first in English and say something briefly in Brazilian Portuguese. I always have to stress that. A lot of people don't know some of the nuances, but Brazilian Portuguese is it's a very Africanized Portuguese. So Rose, can you join us?
Yes.
Ah.
Hi everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. So sorry that Flora is having problems with connection. And I didn't know that Louis was calling me to speak, so I'm kind of a little bit nervous. But anyway, I would say that I was Florentina's former student. And I would say about her work. So her work is like brilliant. So she's a professor at Federal University in Bahia, Brazil. And she works in human science and special literature, and also works with trajectories of Black intellectuals. And so her work is amazing. And as she said, she is very happy because she received the award. And as she said, the award is not an individual award, but is also a collective one. So I'm gonna speak a little bit in Portuguese now, and just to mark here that Florentina is very, very happy about the prize. Muito obrigada a todos vocês. É um prazer estar aqui. Infelizmente, a professora Florentina está tendo problemas com a conexão da internet. Eu não sabia que eu seria chamada para falar no lugar dela, então, portanto, um pouco nervosa, mas dizer que o trabalho da professora Florentina na Universidade Federal da Bahia, em Brasil, é simplesmente excelente. Enfim, ela realmente merece o prêmio, E como ela costuma dizer, não é um prêmio apenas para uma pessoa, para uma professora, mas o prêmio para um prêmio que significa uma coletividade. And thank you very much for the Caribbean Association, Philosophical Association, especially Louis and Jane. So that's all. Thank you.
Muito obrigado.
De nada.
And so, and now we go to the book awards. The two Frantz Fanon Book Awards winners, one was here, but something unfortunately led to a conflict where she had to sign off, and the other had sent his ahead. So I'll read from both, okay? So the first is from Adom, Adom Getachew, and she writes, I just want to thank the Caribbean Philosophical Association for this award. The CPA was the first conference I attended as a graduate student, and reading Frantz Fanon as an undergraduate changed my life. This award will always hold a special place in my heart. Naleo in Amharic, which is basically thank you. And then from Julius Scott, we have, for the common wins, greetings. I'm extremely honored to have received the 2020 Frantz Fanon Outstanding Book Award from the Caribbean Philosophical Association for the Common Wind. I deeply regret I am unable to join you at this year's ceremony. However, be assured that I'm grateful for this acknowledgement and support. I'd like to congratulate the other laureates who are being recognized for their distinguished contributions. I should like to add that an element that of the common wind to consider is the book itself, although he wasn't thinking in those terms when he wrote it, links a lot to what the Shifting the Geography of Reason thesis is about, because it connects how we communicate with each other despite the circumstances to cut us off, to destroy our voice, etc. Then now we go to the Nicolás, Guillén, Batista Outstanding Award winners. And it's interesting that we just went in from Brazil, because we have here a book, first book, Lamonte by Lamonte. It's entitled Slavery Unseen, from Duke University Press, which examines the complexity and the questions of the intersections of race, sexuality, gender, etc., in the Brazilian context. And there's much more. I will move for Lamonte to speak for himself, but I could tell you I've taught this book in my doctoral seminar on race and the formation of the human sciences. So without further ado, Lamonte, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Louis. And thank you, everyone. I just want to say that I'm in such a place of gratitude today to be here and to listen to all of you. And I've just been so full of thanks and so full of joy and hearing and seeing all of your faces. And I just want to, just continuing on with our multilingual interactions, I want to say boa tarde, muy buenos días, or buenas tardes, or buenas noches, wherever you are. Bonjour à toutes et à tous, buongiorno, obrigado, muchísimas gracias, mil merci, gracias mille. I am really, really deeply honored to be here today. And I just want to say that how great it is to be here in communion. And I want to use that word intentionally. In communion with each and every one of you, in conversation and in solidarity with all of you who have made the work that I do possible. I just want to, since no one has done it, I know that it took a lot of work to do this, but I just want to show this beautiful plaque that the Caribbean Philosophical Association sent, and I'm just so grateful for it. And this is just so beautiful here. But I just wanted to say thank you especially to each and every one of you. And I'm grateful to receive this honor and for all of you who have helped to build and sustain this association. Your labors and efforts have made this recognition of scholarship, my recognition, my scholarship and your scholarship that centers the lives, lived pains, sufferings, and triumphs of our ancestors. And I want to thank you, Louis. I want to thank you, Hanétha. I want to thank you, Jane, and all of the members of the committee, the Selection Awards Committee, that inducted me into this esteemed cohort of writers, scholars, and activists. And to all of you every day whose efforts, who through your work, through your efforts, your labors, that go seen and unseen, recognized and unrecognized. You go about creating new tools and visions and new futures for all of us, and letting us know that we can continue to break paths and create new ones. And I just want to remind each and every one of us that our power is in our collective strivings. And I just want to say how grateful and how humbled I am to be here today, and to thank you so much for all of the work that you do, and for continue to empower each and every one of us through your works, through your work in the academy, through your work in the field, through your political work, through your activism. And may we all continue to write and inspire.
Well done. Congratulations. And now we come to last but not least, Chandra Mahan S. Chandra Mahan, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I thank the CPA as a very emotional moment for me. You know, I was very surprised to receive the prize. I thank Sunday who introduced me to the CPA. All of you. I thank Firoze Manji and his Radical Publishing House, the Raja Press, for having the courage to publish my work. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And CPA Louis Gordon, who introduced me to one of the greatest philosophers alive here. I feel a tremendous sense of responsibility to extend our thought process that incorporates the other. Also, I believe that I aspire to bring in anti-caste scholarship to the epistemology of the CPA, that the CPA that embodies a global South. I'm deeply honored that I'm joining a fraternity of poets and scholars that include Dionne Brand and Kamau Brathwaite, all major names. So I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. So I believe that this is like a beginning of my learning curve. There's a tremendous opportunity to for me to like get inspired from the kind of scholarship that you people have, and how a third world country like India and the anti-caste scholars who come from oppressed minorities learn from the kind of scholarship, poetry, literature that you all produce. I'm deeply honored. I thank each one of you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chandra Mahan. And as many of you know, as you see, as we've been speaking, we connect in the Caribbean. It's a confluence of people from all over the globe. And many of us, what's often overlooked, as Paget Henry reminds us, is the importance not only of the Indo-Caribbean, but also the complexity of the struggles we deal with, especially for people who are structured outside of the Vardas. The Portuguese use the word caste, but it's far more that's going on. And one of the ways, and we don't want to forget any of our people globally, including the question of the treatment of Dalits in South Asia. And so as we bring together this point that was said about Harriet Bailey, pertains to our effort as well as bringing voice to those on whom a muzzle was forced over the past ages. We're coming now to the conclusion of our ceremony, but Rose, was Flora able to log on? I can't tell.
Hey, Louis.
Yes, was Flora able to log on?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, what I will say for now is I'd like to say 2 closing remarks. The first one is connected to why we have the Mentorship Awards, because the one of the unfortunate inheritances of colonial mentalities is the failure to understand that humanity has to do more than one thing. And one of the quintessential aspects of throughout the global South, and especially, from Jamaica, where I'm from, you're not a proper Jamaican if you don't have 10 jobs. So we're always multitasking. But for us, that's just the way of life. If you think of Fanon, Fanon, when he was being a psychiatrist, he was also being a revolutionary, he's being a poet, he's being a playwright, he's dancing, he's cooking. And when you think of Guillén, it's a similar thing. It goes on. But pretty much every member of this organization understands that you have to be multifaceted, because the struggle is not against one element. We're dealing with multiple elements. We had a discussion this week about hydras, many heads, many things. But I'd also like to bring up Haki's point. When Haki mentioned about the enslavers want us to say masters. We know this. And as we know, Audre Lorde from the Virgin Islands, from St. Thomas, Audre Lorde is very famous for saying the master's tools don't trade on a master's house. But one of the things that we always remind folks about the enslaver's house is that enslavers don't build anything. We build things. Our people were skilled labor, dragged over with their knowledge, their wisdom, their grit, their energy, their ideas. And if there's so much that we have to be thankful for in the world today, because those people did not give up. They fought, they struggled, and they built institutions. And instead of trying to say that we must be in the enslaver's house, many of us understand to get out there and build our own houses and build better houses. Third World Press is another house. Daraja Press is another house. The Caribbean Philosophical Association is another house. Black Studies is another house. African Studies, the list goes on. We are here today because we understand that the task is to build homes for ideas, for freedom, dignity, and flourishing. And so these multiple tasks is from people who don't only think ideas, but understand that ideas need places in which to live and to grow. And it's with that in mind that I join everybody, and I call you all now to unmute for us to give our hearty, loud acknowledgement of the laureates, of welcoming them all now to the Caribbean Philosophical Association. So everybody unmute and together shout, shake, bangles, whatever. Let's honor them.
Ashe, 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 ashe.
Yes. Okay.
Ashe.
Ashe, do a neter.
Ashe.
Yes. Ashe, do a neter. All of the joy. We are so fortunate, all of us. Thank you for your work.
Thanks to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.